Hey everyone, if you like what you're hearing here on the Wisdom of the Sages podcast and want to go deeper into the practices and teachings of Bhakti Yoga, there's two great ways that we suggest you can do it. One is by joining us on our Patreon page for live and recorded classes and workshops, plus a lot of other cool Bhakti-related content. That's at patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. And Raghu, number two?
Number two is have a life-changing experience coming with us to India, where we offer all different types of trainings at the beautiful Govardhan Eco Village. You can check them all out at www.raghunath.yogi. Yoga.
Okay, let's go.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Live from Canaan, New York, this is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast. My name is Raghunath, and I'm here with my co-host Kaustubha Das, senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York City. Welcome to our show. Today's a special day. It's question day. We've been storing up thousands of questions. We're going to get to as many as we can today. We are here with about 86 people on Zoom, and also our pretty darn big Apple Podcast family, and people listen on Spotify and YouTube. If you want to join our Zoom group, it gets maxed out at 100, and we're already hitting 80s and 90s every day. But, you know, it's sort of, I think it's first come, first serve as far as logging in. And if you're on the Zoom group, you get to see each other. We have a wink at each other. We got a whole international community here. I'm doing this from my car this morning at 5 a.m. because it's like I live in a microclimate. There's always like, it rains and we have a blackout. So there's some upsides about living in an isolated area on a farm, and there's some downsides. The downside is I get a lot of blackouts. And blackouts mean most people's pumps are connected to the electricity too. So it means it's not the best for off-grid living because it controls all the toilets, all the sinks, etc. And also I don't have internet where I live because of the very low signal. So I have to drive to a local gas station down the road. And hopefully we're on today. Kaustubha, how are you? You got to unmute yourself, or I got to unmute here. There you go. Try it again.
I was saying I am impressed. Look at you going above and beyond the call of duty here. Get in your car in the pouring rain, driving to somewhere. I don't even know where you are.
Not there. There's a gas station in the back.
Okay.
The things we do.
Well, let's make this happen. Thank you for your dedication. You could have given up, Raghu. You could have just said it's not going to work today. But no.
I couldn't have given up because I can't even send a text message.
Okay.
From my house, I had to get in a car and send a text message to cancel. So I figured I might as well do it anyway.
All right.
I actually sent a text message to Mara. Don't come. I'm going to go to a gas station, which is closer.
She's probably going to roll in there with a thermos right now.
She didn't. She didn't get to the message until after she was already on the road.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it's upstate living. So I hope you're faring well, you guys, from the coronavirus, and really just the shutdown due to the corona. I don't even know if the coronavirus is as overwhelming yet as I know people are sick and people are dying, but not in an overwhelming amount. We're sort of caught up in a little bit of a hysteria, and hopefully the hysteria has dropped a little. But, you know, since my kids are already homeschooled, I already live in the middle of nowhere. It hasn't really even visually affected me. It's almost business as usual up here. What's New York City like?
New York City's different. It's definitely not business as usual. That's for sure. It's like the streets are pretty empty. The shops are pretty empty. And I think what I sense from people right now is like every day there's different, I don't know if rumors is the right word, but nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. Nobody knows. There's a lot of talk about shutting the whole city down for some time. Nobody knows if this is going to go on to the end of the month, till, you know, you see things is going to be 18 months. You know, it's a very uncertain time. And I think that makes it hard for people. It's hard for the mind. And I think people just have to take a deep breath, relax, and whatever this is going to be, we're going to adjust to it.
Kaustubha does really good under stress. Has anybody noticed that? Very, very good under stress.
Thank you, Raghunath. But that's just a fact. It's going to challenge us. Am I going to be locked in this apartment? We live in these small apartments here, so it's like.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. I'd lose my mind.
Yeah.
Still going on a bike ride every day.
Well, I mean, you
still see nobody. My bike ride.
It's funny. I go out and I take a walk in the park every day, and I've been bumping into people, every day, and yesterday I ran into the father of a friend of mine, just as he was walking out of his building, and I wasn't sure if it was him. I don't know him all that well, but I know him. And he was with his wife, and I said, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so," just to make sure that it was him. He said, "Oh," and then he looked at me and he's like, and then I went forward to shake his hand, and he reacted as if I was coming after him with a knife.
Yeah, don't shake anybody's hand; will kill you.
And but you can see that people are uptight, and people are just a little like afraid of how long is this going to last. It's unclear. If I knew that it was going to be exactly this amount of time, I could adjust. Without that, it makes people unsteady.
When I hear about that, it's interesting because it's almost what is reality anyway. Reality is life is unsteady, life is uncertain. You could have a real serious life reversal at any moment. There's no actual truth or stability in the future, like trust no future, however so pleasant.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you have to really live the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam, this is the message of the Bhagavatam. There's no stability in the material world. Right. That's the actual message of the Bhagavatam. And if we really understood that, we'd have a little bit of anxiety, or we wouldn't waste any time whatsoever, because we realize life is short, life is precious. I'm not going to say, okay, now I got time off, I don't have to go to work. I'm going to indulge in, downtime for extra TV, extra movies. This is for those on a spiritual path. We have to look at this as a time to really fuel up our spiritual bank account. A lot of us claim, well, we don't have that much time during the course of the day. Usually, now you do. Now we actually have time in the course of a day to take our spiritual life more serious. Don't take Maya more seriously because we have so much extra time. That's the last thing we're supposed to be taking seriously. Now we should be taking spirit more seriously. So it is a good time. And for people interested in spiritual life, don't let the downtime be wasted. Really cherish it. I'm not saying you have to work your ass off, but dive deep into spiritual literature. Dive deep into your meditation and your chanting. A lot of harmonium players out there. Learn songs on your harmonium, sing, make a beautiful altar, and go inside. But what's going to happen is we can use this time off to really get into also a lot of mental problems. Bad thinking. Bad thinking is bad. It's bad stuff. It's bad food. It's bad food for the soul. The soul needs to be fed, whether we're quarantined or whether we're out in the world. So we're trying to make this show a little bit of an oasis for that. And if you're going to binge watch something, binge watch back episodes. There's so many good YouTube videos. This is all information that is the jiva, or the spirit, is actually hungry for. So if you're new to this show, we do the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's one of the ancient books of India on how to apply bhakti to life. And it's told through these fantastic stories, but very deep philosophical truths. But once a week, we take questions from our readers. So we're going to dive right in here today.
I just want to mention one thing before we move forward, Raghu.
Sure.
And that is that the Bhakti Center, which is also on lockdown, is determined to try to rise to the occasion and serve people at this time. So they're going to be coming out with a lot of online programming, online community groups, daily talks in the morning and the evening, different kind of courses and classes, different kind of events. So if you're locked in your home and you want to try to tune into some bhakti related content, check out the Bhakti Center on their social media. Announcements will be coming up soon. Before long, if you go to the website bhakticenter.org, it's going to tell you, like, here's all the stuff that's online every day. They're working on that now. But if you go to their Instagram or Facebook, you'll begin to see what they're going to be offering soon. So that's one place to reach out to.
Okay, great. And if you want to reach us, it's wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Also, we have a great Patreon community. Man, that Patreon thing is out of control right now. As far as people communicating, I open my phone and we have this thing called Discord, which is a
chat community thing.
Chat community with all these people. It's out of control. There's recipes and videos and more questions, and
I think it's better than our Telegram now, because you can just focus where you want to focus. You don't have to follow all of the different channels, but you can follow the ones that you're interested in, and that way it's not even though it's out of control, it's under control.
It's spiritualizing all these things people do anyway. There are online chat groups anyway, but sometimes they're either at worst nefarious and at best diversional. All right, so let's dive into some of these questions.
All right.
You want me to start, or do you want to go?
No, well, I made a list. Did you get?
I'll just go straight through.
Yeah, well, you got the first one there.
Okay.
It's actually the first three, but they're all related.
Okay. Raghu, I'm coming from a Christian background and unfamiliar with mantras and chants. In researching the Hare Krishna chant, I've come across offensive chanting. Can Raghunath or Kaustubha talk about this? That's from Jesse Taylor.
Taylor, yeah.
Oh, Kaylor. So yeah, chanting is just like it's like prayer, but the yogis take it up to another degree. There's actually sound vibrations which affect the consciousness in like a very sort of a mind-altering way. There are mantras for health. There's mantras for healing. There's mantras for money. There's mantras as curses. But the mantras we are really interested in bhakti are the mantras that really separate us from our external personality. I have an external personality. It's not my real personality. It's just this personality of the machine that I'm wearing in this particular matrix. Right now, I can only drive so fast. I'm in my wife's Subaru. But the car has other, useful things. It's good in snow. Sometimes there's a bunch of 18-wheelers at this gas station. That body has different uses as well. Now, the drivers are the same. We're just in different vehicles. In the same way, these mantras, the Hare Krishna mantra especially, are called the Maha or Great Mantra. It's so powerful that it starts to separate you from this identity of you.
Raghu, could I just say one thing? I think specifically he's asking about offensive chanting. What does that mean?
Okay. So offensive chanting is there's particular offenses that sort of hinder the chanting. One is criticism. Criticizing other people or great devotees or people who've dedicated their lives to spirit. To criticize them is what it really means. Offensive chanting is you're doing something that is not going to make your chanting. If your chanting is like a seed, it's not going to make that seed grow. You can chant forever. It's just not going to have effect. So it's almost like in the yoga system, there's sort of yamas and niyamas, or rules that you apply to your yoga practice to advance in yoga. In the same way, in chanting, there's sort of rules you apply to it. That's what we talk about a lot in the 6 pillars, but there's actually 10 offenses of chanting. The first one being to disobey the orders of the teachers. That sounds right. Don't disobey our orders.
If you go through them the way they're translated, they're going to sound really
I'll skip the way they're translated. You need to explain a little. But basically, the orders, what we mean by the orders is basically your lifestyle choices. Your lifestyle choices affect your behavior. You want to add on this? I think I'm not explaining it well.
Well, no, I think you get it. The idea is that that there are different spiritual content or substance that's powerful and transformative, and the name is really like on the top of the list. Meditating on these mantras, but it's said the mantras like the sun. It's powerful. There's nothing that we can do to affect its power, to strengthen it or weaken it. But what we can affect is our ability to receive it. Like I can stay indoors and not get the sunlight. I could cover my body and not get the effects of the sunlight. If I want to get a tan, I got to get out in the sun and feel the power of that sun. And so the offenses, it's a translation of the word aparad, it means something like aradhanam means one's connection or one's worship. And aparad means that which interferes or which, weakens that. And so the types of behavior that make us less receptive to that power, and there's 10 that are listed, but I think maybe the most important one for us to start with is that we have this tendency to become callous and hardened to people, and then enter into a constant state of criticism of other people. You let go of that, So those offenses are just ways. It's highlighting, putting a red circle around the types of mentalities or behaviors that make us less receptive to the potency of that practice.
I think that's a good answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Another one was about chanting was, what's the difference between when one chants japa versus one is singing in kirtan? Well, there's something powerful about just singing with a group of other people. And there's something sort of meditative when we're just chanting japa. Japa is like on Indian rosaries. Although the Indian malas came before the rosaries, but I think we're familiar with rosaries. Malas are 108 beads. We chant the name once on each bead in a meditative way, and it can be one of three ways: in the mind, slightly audible, or loudly. Whichever you need to keep your attention. The real purpose is not whether it's soft, medium, or loud, but to keep it in your mind. I know sometimes I chant very quietly, and then sometimes I'll just chant Krishna, Krishna, loudly, just to almost like wake up my mind, especially if I'm in a real sort of, I just woke up, it's very early in the morning, I'm chanting japa. Sometimes I need to scream it a little. My favorite way to scream, my favorite place to chant japa is in the forest, where I scream and chant, and I find that to be the best, most like conscious way for me to call out. It is a prayer, and that part of the understanding of the prayer is to engage me in service in this lifetime. What is my service? Who am I? What is my contribution? So that sort of knocks off two questions. So singing in kirtan is different because it's different and it's the same in the sense like you're chanting the holy name, but there's something powerful about singing call and response with a group of people that is very, very powerful.
The music helps draw the mind to it because music's powerful for that.
And the music also stays in the mind, which is very powerful. Like you'll be singing a melody, just like advertisers use jingles, and they stay in your mind. And we sing about a product again and again. Sometimes for 30 years, I'm singing about Nabisco, or like Gillette razors or something like that. And so we, in our mind, are singing these mantras that are also now stored in the mind due to a raga or a melody. It's quite fascinating, the science behind it all. And what they are is they're replacing old mantras or talk. It's very popular in culture to say self-talk. We hear, or the mind's talking, or the monkey mind. It means the mind is just chattering things. And very often it's not like helpful things, useful things, healing things. It's just sort of like a lot of self-deprecation, a lot of negative speak of the mind. You can't do this. You're not good enough. And so it's replacing those type of mantras with actually transcendent mantras. It's a it's considered the most powerful practice in this age. And that's why everything you do, if you really study yoga with traditional teachers, everything has a mantra behind it. All your activities of puja, all your pranayam, even your asanas are all done with mantra. So japa is considered like the most powerful thing you can do to enter samadhi.
Although in this age, it's said that actually it's the kirtan, right? That is the most, because our ability to sit quietly and meditate is weak. But our ability to join into a kirtan and sing our heart out, with a group of people, that we can do.
Yeah, it's very easy and attractive.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you covered the last two, because the other question was, when approaching japa, does it matter if we hear ourselves externally saying the mantra or internally hearing?
I covered that one as well.
Yeah. So you got two there. So those were from Bhakti Ed. Those last two. Okay. All right. Next question.
Okay, you got this?
I got it. So this is from, and we spoke about this yesterday, Makoto Dreams. What does Makoto mean again, Akiko? You told us yesterday. But if this is from a person on the Patreon list who goes by the handle Makoto Dreams.
Handle. That's like such a CB word, CB radio word.
It means truth or real. Okay, so this is the question. Now, this is a big question, and I think it's a question that's on a lot of minds. And I think we're going to have to spend a little time on this, and you can help me out with this, Raghu, too.
Sure.
Is it possible or legitimate to practice two different bhakti traditions? I've found Vedic spirituality through Bhagavad Gita and ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement. But soon after I started trying to practice, I started to discover scriptures, poetry, and saints from different Vedic traditions, particularly the Bengali Kali Bhakti tradition of Ram Prasad Sain and Sri Ramakrishna. I've had some very powerful experiences with the goddess and worship her primarily as my chosen form, but also remain deeply attached to Krishna, the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada and his movement. Within the context of more pluralistic, interdenominational, forgive the problematic yet roughly analogous comparison with Christianity, interdenominational. So I'll read it again. Within the context of more pluralistic, interdenominational conceptions of Vedic thought, including Sri Ramakrishna and Amma, my mantra Diksha Guru, this is not problematic, as all forms of God are different expressions of the same entity. While Prabhupada and other Vaishnava acharyas, or teachers, still unquestionably affirm this principle, they stop short at Shiva and Devi, referring to them as demigods, often speaking of their worship as being for beings, quote unquote, of lesser intelligence. Okay, now we're almost there. We've almost finished this question, but we'll go through it step by step. I've always had a discomfort with how Prabhupada uses the term demigod for them. Indra, Varuna, or Agni, who are demigods more popularly, but Shiva and Devi are still considered eternal beings, who are expansions of Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada does not speak very highly of Kali worship, which is understandable given the historical opposition of Shaktas and Vaishnavas in the subcontinent. One can approach this from many historical, theological, and interpretive angles, but the bottom line is, I don't know what it all means for my sadhana. I kind of resent having to choose one or the other. It seems antithetical to the inclusive, broad-minded, and individualized approach to religion that attracted me to Vedic spirituality in the first place. While I am affirmed, accepted, and fully included in my wonderful Sangha, I sometimes have an inner feeling that I am somehow not on the same page, and sometimes I feel kind of split down the middle. I'm aware that in Bhakti, single-pointed devotion is emphasized, but does single-pointed necessarily mean one and only? Okay, that was a long question.
Good question.
But I really appreciate the question. I appreciate the honesty and the thoughtfulness in it and the detail. And right off the bat, I'm going to say, I'm not going to take the position where I'm going to try to convince you, Makoto Dreams, of what to believe or practice. But just, to me, it comes down to like a question of like, why do I believe what I believe? Or why do people like in the lineage that she's discussing, the Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, why do they make certain distinctions? And to start with, before we get into the specific question about the goddess Kali, I want to speak a bit more broadly about the differences in conceptions here. And what I want to make clear is that there's two different ideas being discussed. It's not, and this is real important. It's not that there's one idea that's inclusive and one idea that's exclusive. Although it can appear that way, and I want to get into that. In other words, it seems like one side is saying, just worship everyone, and there's not a problem. Don't be sectarian. Appreciate all the different gods and goddesses, and no need to say one is higher or lower. Let's appreciate everybody's point of view. And the other one is saying, no, we've got one point of view and the other ones are wrong. Actually, they're both presenting different ideas, and they're each saying that the other is wrong. And that's okay. It's like we can disagree with one another. But let's be clear. There's certain people that say all the devas are one, that all the different gods are all the same. They're different manifestations of the absolute truth. And actually, we are all manifestations of that absolute truth too. And in the end, we all merge into one. That's one point of view that is saying any other point of view is wrong. And then there's another point of view that's saying that there's one supreme source, one supreme person from which all the other devas and all the other living beings stem from. And they remain individual. They remain themselves eternally, right? But that there's a root to it all, and that is Sri Krishna. And the devas are different manifestations of his energy that are given, that are eternal individuals. And then we are, we could take that role at some point, like those roles shift, and people can, who's Lord Brahma today, in the future it'll be another person, and so on. But this is the first base I think I want to say, is that both are saying that each other are wrong, but both can also appreciate beauty in each other's conceptions, right? Like I used to, with a friend of mine, Eddie Stern, we used to run a temple called the Broome Street Temple, and he had a Ganesh temple in there, and I had a Radha Krishna temple in there. And we did lots of nice programs there. Lots of cool people came and benefited from the place. And our conceptions were a little different. I think Eddie's are a little less. I shouldn't speak for him, but he definitely has a leaning towards the understanding that all the devas are equal manifestations of the one. Whereas my thought is that all these devas are devotees of Lord Krishna. But we got along, and I appreciated his faith and his qualities and his personality and how his practice made him a better person, and he appreciated mine. So the point, in one sense, the question was, can I hold two different ideas, two different traditions of bhakti, and practice them both? My answer to that would be, actually, no. You can appreciate both, but to practice, you have to have what's called, there's these terms, sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. There's the conceptions that you have, the sambandha, the conception of how you're related to that deity. Then there's the practices, the abhideya, and then the prayojana is the goal of it all, the divine love, which is the goal of it all. And you have to start with your conceptions. If I think that I am God, then that's going to affect my worship of God. It's going to affect, my whole conceptions. The conceptions have to be clear from the beginning. So my point would be is you have to define what your conception is before your practice becomes clear. And if there's some disagreement, between the two, it doesn't mean that we have to hate each other for that, but we can acknowledge that and try to come to the point where we base what we base our faith, determine what we base our faith on. Now, why does Prabhupada speak strongly about this? It could appear that he is sectarian when he'll say something. She mentioned something that Prabhupada mentions she says, while Prabhupada and other Vaishnavacharyas still unquestionably affirm this principle, they stop short of, she said, and they often speak of the worship of the devas as being for beings of lesser intelligence. Now, the point that I want to make is the reason why they say these words, and that sounds like a strong thing, is because that's what the Bhagavad Gita says.
It's not Prabhupada didn't say it. He's repeating what the literature says.
Yeah, and so this when you get this, there's this vast body of Vedic literature, all written by Vyasadeva, and then Vyasadeva tries to clarify it in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, I'm just going to read a few verses from the Gita. This is text 10.2. Name vitu surgana prabhavam na mahashraya aham adirhi devanam maharshinam chasarvashaha. Neither, this is Krishna speaking, neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and the sages. He'll say in text 9.23 that those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, but they do so, and he says this, avidi purvakam, in the wrong way. With the wrong vidya. Oh, no. And he'll say, there's a stretch of verses from 720 to 723. It's 4 verses in a row. Those whose intelligence has been stolen, hritya jnanaha, right? Those whose intelligence has been stolen by what? By material desires, kamais tais ter hritya jnana. They surrender unto the demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their natures. He says, endowed with such faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desire. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. And then he says, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. But those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach me. Now, I just want to share one analogy and to help. It sounds like, well, Krishna's got, he's kind of uptight and he's demanding that everybody worship him. And what's his problem? Can't he just chill out and be like, we're all good? And so I'm going to use just an analogy. And we've used this analogy before, that imagine a child that if you ask them, where do you get your food from? And they say, I get it myself. And then you say, how do you get it yourself? Well, I walk to the refrigerator, open it up, and I take out the food. And that shows the ignorance of the child, that he doesn't know that there are parents that provided that food, right? There are parents that earned the money, bought the food, brought the food there, were thinking of the welfare of the child and put the food in the refrigerator. So when the child says, I get food myself, it's a lack of understanding. And but imagine if the child's understanding expanded a bit. Imagine if let's say this is like a child from a wealthy family. And when it comes time to bring the food, who brings it? It's like a butler brings in the food, right? And sometimes a maid brings in the food. Or, like when it's time for the water, another servant will bring some water. And when it's time to heat up the house, another servant goes and stokes a fire up. And so now the child says, you know what? I don't get these things myself. They're all provided for me. There's someone that starts my fire. There's someone that brings my water. There's someone that provides my food. That's like the devas. That's like the demigods, right? There's the god of the sun. There's the god of the rain. There's all the different devas are supplying these things. But if the parent, the person that pays the butler and pays the maid and pays the different servants, sees that now the child has decided, let me express my gratitude to all the different servants of the household. In one sense, the parents think, well, this is good that they're starting to at least realize that they're not the cause of everything. But doesn't the child realize that I'm the one that is making all this happen? That I'm the one that pays the butler and pays the maid and pays the servant. I'm the one that empowers them to do what they do. So Krishna's saying, behind it all, I'm there. I'm the one that empowers the devas. And so when you worship the devas, he'll say, I'll even increase your faith, because if that's a step forward for you, I'm willing to help you with that. It's a step forward. But don't you realize that I'm the one that's behind it all? And this is the real important point. Generally, people approach the devas to get things of this material world. And Krishna's saying what you get from them is temporary. They'll easily give that. But if you come to me, in the end, that's where it's all meant to lead. If you come to me, you can get divine love eternally. And that's worth so much more than what the devas are providing in my service here. And so that's the connection. If the parent is saying, you can respect and you should respect and appreciate and have gratitude towards all the servants in the house, and that's great. But understand that I'm here behind it all, ready to connect with you in love. And that's the goal of all the Vedic teachings. And so these statements are said throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam with great clarity. And that's why when Srila Prabhupada speaks that, he's trying to help us get the conception clear so that we can do the practice and achieve the goal of the practice. There's a lot more that can be said, and I don't want to go on too long about it, but I'd like to hear what you have to say, Raghu.
I'm just going to share one thing. I think there is definitely a type of respect with all traditions. I find when I go to India, I go into all different types of temples, be it Hanuman or Kali or Shiva. At the same time, it's like any type of love, and I was mentioning this yesterday. If as a heterosexual male, I might say I love women, but eventually, if I really want to refine my love, I fall in love with one particular person, and I develop a relationship with that person, and I want to serve that person. And that's part of refining love. And that person is the form of your meditation in one sense. And for a guy to say, hey, I love women, that's not love at all in a lot of ways, because you have to really hone everything in. It just assists in your devotion. Now, if you have a different path where your path is, I want to become God, that's another story. And then people on that path, they worship Shiva. And we worship Shiva also, but not to become God, but in assistance with service to Krishna. So I don't think there is one sense much of a difference, and another sense there's a massive difference. But in the general term, we love. But as you refine your spiritual practice, you'll find it refining in the way you love. My only advice to her would be, just keep doing what you're doing, and it will become louder and louder and louder to you.
I like that.
Yeah, right?
Sure. And what you just said brought something else up to my mind. And that is that it's a fact that if you comb through the Vedic literature, you'll find that when the other devas are mentioned, it's describing how you can get something material from them. Whereas when you go through the entire Bhagavatam or the Gita, it's described how you approach with nothing for nothing but love. Now, she mentioned like different bhakti traditions, and like say the bhakti tradition of Kali, and she mentioned Ram Prasad Sain and Ramakrishna, who were Bengalis that come post Sri Chaitanya's era, and they approached Kali in a way that I don't see exactly, and I'm no expert on this, so I'm sure there's certain quotes maybe that, but in general, what I'm saying is that the way that they approach Kali, in my sense, mirrors the way that Sri Chaitanya taught the Bhagavatam. It's a tradition that wasn't really there before, but that kind of grew out of there. It was kind of taking the bhakti for Krishna and pointing it at Kali. And the reason why this is important is because you see, generally Kali and the other devas are approached for material things. Now, I could speak to you in a language of love. If someone is, say a man is approaching a woman for marriage, and he's speaking words of love. I love you. I want to make you happy. I want to give myself entirely to you and dedicate myself to you. So the words of love are there. But the woman knows, actually, in his heart, the reason why he's proposing to me is because he wants something that I have.
He knows, right? I'm wealthy, or he knows I'm...
Yeah, he wants my wealth, or he'll become famous, or whatever, So she knows that although he's speaking words of love, the love isn't actually there in the heart because he wants to get something from me. And so therefore, when we use the word bhakti, it means free from wanting to get something from God and approaching purely out of love. That's called bhakti. It means It says, anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma yanavritam, that bhakti is pure or free from the motive of wanting something material from God or from wanting escape, and relief from God. It's purely out of love. So,
Kaustubha,
well, I just want to just finish this one point. So therefore, if I'm doing a puja or saying some prayer to a deva, it might sound like love. But if I'm asking for something from them, and that's my point, that's my purpose there, and that's generally why people worship the devas, then that puja or those prayers is not, according to the great acharyas of bhakti, it's not actually bhakti. Or at best, it's bhakti mixed with all other kind of things.
I'm realizing the time. I think we should just move on. I think that's a good.
Okay.
That's pretty.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on, Ravi.
On fading karma, I wanted to put forward a question because, to be honest, over the last few weeks, my mind has been so troubled, and I'm still so new to this that I can't make sense of it. I know this world is material and nothing here lasts, and I do my best to accept that, and that it doesn't bother me. But I find myself very, very fearful of the spread of the coronavirus. I'm not scared for myself, though. I'm scared for my children. I could accept if something happened and I got sick, but it terrifies me to think that my children could, and there's nothing I feel like I can protect them. I don't know if this is a legitimate worry or some other form of Maya, but I hear my son even cough and my mind just goes to the worst. If you could offer any guidance, that would put me at ease. Well, the real guidance may not put you at ease, because the real guidance, the real truth about it is the world is a mystery. The world is temporary. I mean, you said it in the very beginning of the question. This is from Tyler. You said it in the very beginning of the question, which was, I know the world is a material thing and nothing here lasts. So if you actually knew that, and if I knew it, we'd all be liberated souls. The problem is we don't fully realize it. We really think like, I can protect my children. I can protect my body. I can protect my property. And the fact is, we have a little bit of protection, but we're not the supreme protector. So we don't know. All we could do is ourselves become spiritually conscious, give that to our children, maintain the basic health, and not live in the mind of fear and worry. It's not going to make you healthy. First of all, it's not going to make you healthier. It's going to wreck your immune system. It's going to, right? It's going to make you stressed out. The best thing we could do is stay connected. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what you're trying to do right now, Tyler, is hearing on a regular basis spiritual truth. So I'm not living in the worry of the mind. By the way, it's not just worry of the mind, it's hope in the mind. People live in worry and hope. They're both unreal. All we have is today. Hey, everybody could be dropping dead of coronavirus, and I could get run over by a car. It's like I have more likelihood of getting run over by a car than I do of getting or in a car accident than I will of coronavirus. So there's unlimited things to worry about, but it's not going to make you happy. It's not going to make you feel connected. It's not going to protect your children. My kids all wanted to go on a hike yesterday. So they all, them and 6 kids hiked for 10 miles down a railroad track. That is like anything could have happened on a railroad track. You could have met a crazy hobo. You could have anything. It could have get hit by a train. But I had some reasonable trust that they were going to do a good job, and they're all their homeschool kids. They're all, if they're contagious, they all have it. And they just went for a hike for 10 miles on the railroad track. I'm not going to be able to protect them from everything, even if I kept them at home. There's a million things that could go wrong at home. So I can't live in that. You want to go on, or you want to
just super briefly? I appreciate your answer, and I appreciate Tyler's, love, for his children. But when you have children, this is part of, you're going through that universal experience that all parents, go through. That having children brings one a great sense of love and joy, and it also brings a ton of anxiety with it. And that's the dual nature of the material world. And whether it's coronavirus or, some other danger out there, that's what parenthood means. And what you're meant to realize through it is exactly what you expressed here. I feel like I can do, like there's nothing that I can do to protect them, And in the end, there's a truth to that. In the end, we do our best to protect them, and we know that we're limited in what we can do. But ultimately, from the Bhakti perspective, from the Vedic perspective, we try to protect them with wisdom. Ultimately, we want to give them higher values and higher wisdom that'll carry them through life. So I sympathize with what you're going through. I think everything Raghunath said was, could hopefully be very helpful for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I was so comforting. I might have a lousy.
Well, it's not always comfort that we're supposed to do, but take comfort in Bhagavatam. Take comfort in the knowledge that we're all eternal. I'm eternal. Your kids are eternal. That the way that you love and care for your kids is the way that you're meant to feel, in one sense, for every living being. And what's going on right now is you're churning that feeling that ultimately turns you towards your connection to your divine source, which is the only stable, place.
It's a very powerful recipe, is the situation we're in right now mixed with the Bhagavatam. It's a very powerful recipe to make advancement in spiritual life. When things are good, it's very easy just to take it not seriously. Now you can take it real seriously.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, got time for one or two more?
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Okay. This is a question from Bhakti Ed. How important is form when offering food? For example, if one lives in a house where offering food to physical deities or pictures creates conflict in the house among family members, can one offer food to the Lord in their mind and achieve the same result?
I like that question.
Good question. And I like both parts of this question, because it's we need, form is important, but ultimately, it's the substance that's the most important. What's behind that. And so two things. One, I appreciate the sensitivity to others. It's not necessarily that you can just convince everyone in your home to accept this and get over it.
Now we're putting a deity in an altar in the kitchen, and we're going to offer all the food before dinner to this form of the Lord.
That's not necessarily the best strategy, It freaks everybody out, can create a lot of
tension
conflict
in the household. When you put a big Krishna deity in the kitchen near the sink.
And the other part that I appreciate is this, ultimately all puja, all worship can be done solely in the mind. And we'll find in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Prabhupada's Nectar Devotion, this example of, there was one sadhu who kind of lived out in the forest on his own, and he was doing his puja for Krishna every day, simply in his mind. He was collecting all the ingredients to cook. He was making the offering, and he was cooking some pies, some sweet rice, like this kind of, you cook down rice and milk and sugar together. And he was collecting the ingredients, and he was doing the whole thing in his mind. And then in his mind, he wanted to test the temperature of it to make sure it was the right temperature to offer. And so in his mind, he touched it with his finger. And then he woke up and he saw his own finger was burnt, and then it said the Lord Vishnu appeared before him at that point. But the idea is that worship can be done in the mind. And if you find yourself in a situation where that's necessary, then that's totally valid. And I think you can do like that, it'll be fine.
Because I travel sometimes and I carry a little portable altar with me, and I do a puja every day. But sometimes due to travel, you can't do it. So this year especially, I've been doing a lot of mental pujas.
Yeah.
And I do it with my children as well, because when we're traveling, we can't do it. And I find that when you do it in your mind, it becomes even more clear than when you're in front of the deities. And it makes you really get deeper into what you're actually doing. I actually think it's a stronger practice doing it mentally, but you really need that time so you could just sit and focus and go inside. And the beautiful thing about it is once you develop that practice, you can bring it anywhere. You could be anywhere. You could be packed in a subway. You could be in a prison, or you could be in the forest, and you feel very free.
You know, there's that super beautiful song, one of my favorite songs.
Oh man, even the gas station got a blackout now.
Oh, no.
Getting bad. All right, go on.
So Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a beautiful song, Mama Mana Mandire.
Oh, yeah.
You know that was, yeah, the temple of my mind, or the temple of my heart. It describes how he, within himself, within his heart, he wants to do puja and all the things that he's offering. Maybe on the Patreon we'll throw that up there
Nice.
today, and the lyrics to that song, very beautiful. And I have a really nice recording of that one too, so we'll share that. Okay, maybe we can squeeze another one in, Raghu.
Yeah. Many spiritual types would like to either find or attract. Oh, this is an old question from Tiziano. Many spiritual types would like to either find, attract their soulmate, that is, the person who God wants them to marry. Have you ever come across related advice in ancient manuscripts? And then the second part of the question is also, when I chanted a Lakshmi mantra, my mother called me offering to loan me money.
Oh, there you go.
What have your experiences been recorded regarding money mantras? All I can say is money mantras are real. That being said, in Bhakti, we don't chant them. If someone asks me for a money mantra, I'll say chant the Hare Krishna mantra. It's not my thing to become like a metaphysical bank for somebody, a metaphysical ATM machine. Money. I'm firmly fixed that Krishna has a plan for me, and sometimes I'll be abundant, and sometimes there'll be lack, and all of it will be a chance for me to grow. But I have to trust, right? Like a kid, I have to trust my parents to have a bigger plan for me. I used this example the other day, when the parents say, "Get in the car, we're going somewhere," I gotta trust they're not gonna drive me off a cliff. They're not gonna do something horrible. They're not gonna throw me out of a moving vehicle. They have a greater plan. So I want to trust in whatever that plan is. And in Bhakti, I'm not going to go out and ask for some type of material benefit. If Krishna wants to send some money, he sends some money. And if he doesn't want to send some money, then I have to be without and deal with it.
What about the soulmate?
Now, a soulmate, it's nice to have a partner, but we confuse sometimes soulmate. Like, if there is no soulmate being sent, then God is not favoring me. Not true. Not true. Same with wealth. If you're not getting wealth, that means you're not necessarily not favored by God. It just means that
you got to make God your soulmate.
Make God your soulmate. The interesting thing is,
there's a bumper sticker.
When you make Sweet Baby Krishna or your higher power your soulmate, you're going to attract the right people. Sometimes we're just a little needy, and we end up taking anybody in. It's like we accept anybody. You laughed at my joke, I'll take you. You think I'm cute, I'll take you. Treat yourself like a jewel. And when you're a jewel, there's not a lot of purchase. Don't be impressed because every guy or every girl thinks you're hot. Who cares? Cheap. Everybody thinks cheap things. Everybody wants to take cheap things. Treat yourself like you're actually incredibly have value. You know why? Because you have incredible value. We don't sell ourselves so cheap. As far as a soulmate goes, keep very high standards of who you let in your life, because you are valuable. As far as a soulmate, you might get one, you might not get one. And they say that your spouse travels with you for 4 lifetimes. Maybe you switch roles, but even that, I'm not quite even sure about it. I truthfully, I think even if they do, we come into people's lives. I know in my own life, people have come into my life for years. Kaustubha has been in my life. Paramananda has been in my life. There's people who have been in my life for like 35 years without even a plan. We didn't, in our teenage life, we never said, "Hey, let's all plan to be together." We never did that. We're just sort of in the mix with each other. I believe that sort of like that happens sort of like through lifetimes. You stay with groups of people, and each person assists you somehow in your growth. As far as the soulmate, I really think you really have to put Krishna or God in there, or else you become incredibly needy. to that partner. What do you think?
I think that was great advice. And I was just, someone mentioned, and I'm looking for it right now. Oh, here it is. Go back to episode 20, Raghu's dating advice for yogis.
Gotcha.
And you share some good stuff there. Yeah. So ultimately, even if we find that soulmate, the two together are meant to make Krishna their soulmate. Create a love triangle.
Well, I appreciated everything you said today, Kaustubha. And I appreciate everybody. What the hell? My phone. Man, that time that's so good with my closing music. Please. There we go. Let's try that again. I appreciate you so much, Kaustubha. And I appreciate
you, Raghu. You're like a soulmate. You're soul brother.
I'm a soul brother. We'll be your soulmates. We'll all be.
Raghu will be your soulmate.
I think that the fact that there's accountability for me to wake up and do the Bhagavatam every morning is so healthy for me. I'm indebted to everybody here. Thank you. We had 100 people today.
Wow, we're all soulmates.
We're all soulmates. And truthfully, it's that sangha that will bring us higher. There's a lot of sanghas you can get into, and a lot of communities you can get into that are distracting and that are degrading. So I want a group of people to bring me up. Thanks for all these questions. I feel bad that we couldn't answer them all, but please keep them coming. If you're joining us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thanks. Give us a 5-star rating if you like it. It means a lot to us, and it helps our rankings. And if you're on the WhatsApp group, great to see you. Join the Patreon group. It really helps us as well. Whatever you give is welcome. We're completely dependent on Lord Krishna. And we have a great community now through this Discord. What do you call it? The Discord?
Chat community.
Chat community? That sounds cheap.
Okay, what do you want to call it then? You ask me. You want to give another name? Go for it.
The dysfunctional Discord. But anyway, thanks for everybody who joined us later that I didn't notice or didn't mention, didn't say good morning to. I'm trying to hold this. I'm crammed in a Subaru, but I'm still gonna clap. I think there's a cop looking at me, but I'm gonna clap anyway. Good to see you, Krishangi, Tom Essig, Jeff Newberger, John Couturier, Alexander, Jamuna Jaya, Edward Williams, Mikkel Podberg. Mikkel's got to be Swedish. Letty Nelson.
Her mustache is doing his thing.
Okay, I see a lot of blackout. If you're new to the group, the blackout faces, we like to see those live faces. We have blackouts, and then we have the froze face. We want to see you dance, at least at the end. You got to be awake by 6 o'clock. Oh, Sarah Oakley, Saskia, good morning. Jackson O, good morning. Dana's going for it. Mohan, come on. Vivi. Ishori Priya and the Italians are on board today. Sri Rupaji, good morning. I can't see Jamuna Jaya. What the heck is going on? Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for letting me serve you. Haribo Kaustubha.
Haribo.